They seem the friendliest and most sociable of creatures. At least that's the impression you get when you watch killer whales swimming in wildlife documentaries or performing at marine parks. But don't be fooled. These are wild animals, predators at the very top of the food chain. They are, as their name implies, killers. None more so than Tilikum, an orca at Florida's SeaWorld. He's killed 3 times. 2 of his victims were his trainers. Tilikum's tragic story makes you wonder what we're doing confining these majestic and clearly very dangerous creatures in concrete tanks. It's showtime at SeaWorld. More than just an aquarium, this is the Disneyland of marine parks. Every year, millions of tourists flock here to Orlando, Florida to see the main event. SeaWorld's famous killer whales.
Thank you, one and all.
And it is quite a show, isn't it?
It changes people's lives.
But for the billion-dollar industry that's turned orcas into entertainment, something is going badly wrong. SeaWorld's star performers aren't following the script, with deadly consequences.
They're caged natural killers, and they've been put into a totally unnatural environment, and they're asked to perform silly tricks over and over and over and over for their entire life. They end up beating the hell out of a trainer or killing them.
Despite their fierce name, we've come to know killer whales as friendly, entertaining creatures who can be taught to perform and, it appears, even like the attention. But make no mistake, they are very skilled predators, the top of the chain in their natural waters. For sure, they can be trained to perform in pools like this, but that doesn't change their natural instinct to hunt and kill.
And if ever there was an argument against keeping these animals in captivity, it's the story of Dawn Brancho. She was SeaWorld's star trainer, in charge of SeaWorld's star whale, the mighty Tilikum. He's huge and dangerous. He'd killed twice before, and in February this year, Tilikum struck again, turning on his devoted trainer.
She was an amazing person. She was one of our most experienced trainers, and she was a phenomenal trainer. She was, no one will argue, one of the best performers we've ever seen.
Kelly Flaherty Clark isn't just the chief animal curator at this park. She was also Dawn's best friend here.
We experienced a huge loss. The animal training industry did. Our killer whale family did.
Clearly emotional for you, it's hard.
It's still tough, yeah.
Dawn Brancho knew exactly what she was dealing with. Killer whales are the wolves of the world's oceans, who skillfully target and play with their prey. It's an instinct that seems to follow them into captivity.
Something's wrong.
Over the past few decades, there have been a number of recorded moments where killer whales have snatched their handlers, held them underwater, tossed them about, refused to let them go. And even after 27 years in captivity, Tilikum took just a split second to act on those natural instincts.
What went wrong on that day between her and Tilikum?
You know, everything was going right between her and Tilikum.
Oh, good shot, Dawn.
A tourist recorded the final minutes of Dawn Brancho's life. She was doing what she did most days, playing with Tilikum, her 5.5-ton favourite killer whale.
That's really nice.
But as Dawn bends down close, near Tilikum's mouth, he grabs her.
At some point in that interaction, her ponytail made its way either near his mouth or actually in his mouth. And she entered the water with him.
What happened next was simply horrific.
Knowing Tilikum, I've lost sleep over thinking about what Don went through.
Marine scientist Dr. John Jett is a former SeaWorld trainer who worked with Dawn and Tilikum.
Once Tilikum decided that Don was going in the water with him, Don had no chance. And Tilikum did let her go at one point, where she was able to surface and get a breath of air. You know, she was described as having this terrified look, please help me look on her face, and Tilikum then grabbed her, took her back down, and then it got worse after that.
He was determined to kill her.
It's quite evident that Tilikum was determined to keep her.
Tilikum kept Dawn underwater for a full 40 minutes before he was marshalled into a holding pen.
At that point, he still had Dawn in his mouth. They had to use sticks and broom handles to pry his mouth open to retrieve her body. And they had to pry his mouth open to go back in and retrieve her arm.
It was SeaWorld's worst nightmare, but it shouldn't have come as any surprise. Trainers weren't allowed in the water with Tilikum because he had a deadly history. In 1991, he killed 20-year-old trainer Kelty Byrne at a Canadian marine park after she slipped and fell in the pool. Then, in 1999, a young homeless man named Daniel Jukes was found dead in Tilikum's Orlando pool after trying to swim with him.
With Dawn Brancho, something was going on with Tilikum, and he pulled her into the tank, and then he shook her and broke her apart. So there was something different. It wasn't playing.
Marine biologist Dr. Naomi Rose from the American Humane Society has studied Tilikum's behaviour over many years and believes the attack on Dawn shows his killer instincts at work.
He pulled her into the tank on purpose. He shook her on purpose. He wouldn't let her get out of the tank on purpose. And personally, I think he didn't mean to kill her, but he was angry or upset or disturbed about something, and he took it out on her, and she died.
Are you saying he attacked deliberately?
I don't know what happened that day. I'm not sure Tilikum knows what happened that day, but somebody's dead because of all this ignorance, and that's what bothers me, that we're willing to live with this amount of ignorance about a very large, very dangerous animal in a tank with a bunch of people, and we think that's entertainment.
How many of you are wondering why I'm not on stage talking to you right now?
What is known, but still unexplained, is that the main show was cancelled just before Dawn's death.
I'd say 99.9% of the time, our shows go exactly the way we want them to.
Two female killer whales, Kayla and Kalina, were acting aggressively and refused to perform.
That's where everybody's attention should be focused, is what was going on earlier in the day, earlier in the show, that resulted in that cancellation.
To keep the crowd entertained, Dawn began playing with Tilikum in a back pool, and as she finished, lay down next to him on a shallow ledge.
But was that a dangerous thing for her to do? Was that against SeaWorld's protocol?
Now we're still reviewing that, and you're asking me to speak to something that, until we understand completely.
But something failed on that day, didn't it?
I don't have my friend anymore. Something went wrong.
Did the procedures here go wrong, or did she go wrong?
I don't know how to answer that. I don't really know how to answer that. I was there. You're asking me to expound upon something that is a tragedy, and you're asking me to make judgments on some things that we'll never know.
But it appears SeaWorld did know exactly what Dawn was doing. As these photos show, she'd done it many times before.
Tilikum was known to be dangerous, though, wasn't he? He'd been involved in 2 deaths prior to Dawn's.
Yeah, you know, people have been bringing those up, and here's
Well, rightly
the bottom
so.
line. Well, rightly so, and I understand that.
Well, that's his
He has
natural
never
instinct,
gave
isn't
us-
it?
No, you know, the behavior that he was showing us was not hunting behavior, was not aggressive behavior, was not killing behavior.
What was it then? To play with
I
Dawn?
can't tell you what he was doing, and I don't think anybody can. Unless they can analyze these sounds that you're hearing behind me and tell me what they're saying, they have no idea. That's where I'd like to leave that.
Out in the wild, in the waters of British Columbia in Canada, you get a very different view of these magnificent killer whales. Here, they live and hunt in well-established pods, the way nature intended. And with John Jett on board, it doesn't take long to find them.
There he is right there. Look at that.
Oh, wow.
Fantastic.
How about that? That is terrific. Golly.
That's a killer whale in the wild.
That's a killer whale in the wild. You know, once you see something like that, it'd be hard to go to an aquarium to see them in a captive environment, no doubt about it. Oh, nice. Look at that.
The pod we're following has 25 family members, and at this time every year, they cruise the shoreline in search of salmon.
Tail. Right here.
Here we have a big one right there.
See the fin?
Wow, look at that. Outstanding.
That is just amazing.
And today is a rare sighting.
He's coming right towards us.
Matriarch of the pod is leading the search for fish, and she's a grand old lady who, believe it or not, is 99 years old. She's 99.
The oldest orca that we are aware of out in this area, so.
Her age, though, means it's more than likely she lost offspring in these waters when killer whales were herded so the young ones could be captured and sold to marine parks. This is exactly how Tilikum was caught in Iceland 25 years ago.
He was very young when he was captured, and he was taken from his mother in what was no doubt an extremely traumatic event. He was sent to one facility where he was bullied by two females who probably were not relatives of his, so he had no status. I suspect he's actually pretty disturbed. I won't go so far as to say he's crazy, but you know, if he was a human being, I'd be really, really concerned about his mental health.
The way you talk about it, it's like describing a juvenile delinquent.
An abused juvenile.
They're the top predator in the ocean. They eat sharks, they eat whales, they eat dolphins. Around here they eat king salmon, so they eat what they want, when they want. But you know, it is interesting, given how long mankind has lived in close proximity with killer whales, there's never been any documented cases of them attacking, certainly not killing any humans. Unfortunately, we don't see that in captive environments, where to date 4 people have been killed by whales.
It seems SeaWorld isn't sure what to do with its infamous star attraction. Tilikum now languishes out of public view in a small pool at the back of the complex. Trainers aren't allowed to touch it. The most contact he has is being hosed from 2 metres away.
For all intents and purposes, he's in confinement, isn't he?
He's in solitary confinement, yeah. He is, in fact, the loneliest whale in the world. This is not normal for killer whales. They're supposed to have companions. They live with their family for their whole life. This whale is messed up.
But out front, the show goes on. It has to, because this is a business worth $2.5 billion, built around killer whales performing every single day of the year, sometimes several shows a day.
So when you hear the criticism that killer whales equals killer profits, what do you say?
I'm bothered by that a great deal. I'm bothered by that. I would say it's profitable for the world and for the environment and for them.
This species doesn't belong in captivity. They are inherently unsuited to being confined in concrete tanks. So what I'm asking them to do is to phase them out. Stop breeding them, that's the first thing you have to do. Stop producing more of them, and let the ones that are currently on display live out their lives, die in due course, and not be replaced.
Coming up,
20,000 planes have been lost in the ocean.
meet the deep sea explorer
The equipment that we have, it's unbelievable.
who says he's found Amelia Earhart's long-lost plane.
We're the first ones to see Amelia Earhart in 86 years.
Now he thinks he can find MH370.
I think we can.